until 10 a.m. For the next half hour, I've got my two analysts in the studio as we delve into the heart of what's going on the Nigerian front. I'm pleased to have with me Mr. C and Lakunle. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Shopway. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, Shopway. Good morning, Luckily. Good morning, Lagos.
Mm. And of course, you might not be in the studio, but you're definitely here with us in spirit and also in your words. You can go up to youtube.com/ smooth981 FM Lagos and leave your comments up on the live stream. You can also send WhatsApp messages in to 0809 440 And we are available to you on Twitter where we are at smooth981FM. You can use the hashtag freshlypressed981 and that will get your messages in to us once you tag us as well. Okay, so getting into the stories from the Vanguard newspaper. Our first one concerns the concluded APC presidential primaries. Headline reads, "Will roar. Tinubu tells PDP to step aside, be ready to be buried in 2023." And this, of course, ahead of the forthcoming general elections. And this was minutes after he was declared winner of the just concluded 2022 APC presidential primaries. The presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, in his words, "We will roar. We will do it. The Poverty Development Party, PDP, should step aside, be ready to be buried, and leave our country for us to rebuild for our children." That's just a little snippet of what he had to say, Mr. C. So, give us your thoughts on what happened at the conclusion or the result of the primaries, and now that going forward, we have our candidates for the two major parties, but we're also seeing candidates for the other parties as well. Some of which some people are saying, well, we need to see more of a presence from them.
Okay, thank you, Shopway. So, yesterday we saw Senator Bola Tinubu win the APC presidential primaries. And this wasn't unexpected because he was presumed he was projected to win the said primary because apparently he had put in the work. Now, he came first, Rotimi Mechi came second, and then the vice president came in this third. Now, as it stands right now, we know the candidates for the two major political parties, and they are men in their 70s, which doesn't really inspire a lot of hope in some Nigerians because some Nigerians would have hoped and wished they got younger presidential aspirants. Alhaji Atiku is 76 or 77. Senator Tinubu is 70. He's 70 officially this year. So,
Yes, officially.
so as it stands, I didn't listen to his message, but from the summary put in the story here, it's not very inspiring because you're threatening to bury a political party, whatever that means. You're not, I didn't see anything about his plans for Nigeria. What are your plans? Where are you taking us from? Where are you taking us to? How do you intend to get there? Because at this point, we've witnessed enough disappointments over the past 7 years, lost dreams, lost hopes that this is a nation that is in need of reassurance. This is a nation that is in need of some sort of promise that where we're heading to might not be El Dorado, but it's certainly on the way to El Dorado.
Now, we've had so much focus on the primaries for the different parties and the candidates coming out, but now as we move forward and we start to see the campaigning begin, what are you hoping to get?
Well, okay, so I like that. What am I hoping to get? And this speaks to our unfortunate reality. I'm hoping to get well articulated and purposeful deliberations, plans, actions on how we're going to proceed. So rather than just say, I'm going to increase jobs, I'm going to create millions of jobs, we're going to create millions of jobs. Where? When? How? I'm going to tackle insecurity. It really doesn't convey any meaning. You're going to tackle insecurity where? How are you going to do it? time frame are you going to do? So now we want to see, I would like to see details. I like to see well intentioned and thought out plans, not sound bites, not statements designed to capture the imaginations of the ordinary Nigerian on the street. But the reality is, having gotten a ticket, some of them may relax. I want to see debates, very enterprising debates, the way we see them in the UK, the way we see them in the US, the way we see them in Canada and Australia. Debates between the aspirants where they're taking to town. They're stretched in length, at detail concerning their plans. But if the last 4 years I need to go by, some of the aspirants may not even show up for the debates, and that would be truly tragic.
I see your messages already coming in up on WhatsApp. Remember, you can leave a message on YouTube where we are Smooth981, and you can also leave a message on Twitter where we are at Smooth981FM. Going into our next story from the Punch newspaper, Nigeria's imports from China rise by 183.91%. Debts hit $3.67 billion. Now, according to the National Bureau of Statistics data on foreign trade, and this is information that spans from the first quarter of 2018 to the first quarter of 2022. And I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Now, according to this data, China is responsible for most of the imports into Nigeria, and it was the number one nation on the top 10 countries for importing into Nigeria in the 5 quarters under review, but definitely did not make the top 10 for exports from Nigeria to China. Your thoughts on this information?
Typically, it's not unexpected when you look at it from the perspective that when we speak about infrastructural development that is ongoing in Nigeria today, a majority of those constructions or development, let me say, are handled by Chinese companies. You look at the light rail in Lagos, the Lagos-Ibadan rail line, the Kano, the ported Lagos to Calabar, and so on and so forth, and so many others. I've just highlighted a few. You see the hands of the Chinese in all of this. You also see them come here to establish manufacturing and trading businesses. We know that I think sometime last year or 2 years ago, there's this report about the light rose, the rose tree in Adamawa axis of Nigeria that is being felled and shipped in large quantities to China. And so many other things of agriculture. They come here to establish farms, grow cassava, export to their country. So you'd expect that all those kind of things, then of course the returns of all those things come back here. When they are coming here to start development of anything, they bring their equipment along, they bring their people. So it is not unexpected. And then our people go there, the basic things, parts of motor vehicles. There was a time in Nigeria that what we used to hear was original Japan and original Taiwan. Today, what we hear and almost everywhere is original China. You know, that's what, or new China. That's what they call it in the market. So much of what we consume are coming from there, even with our handheld devices and all sort of things. And this, like, as a spin-off of what Mr. Sis just said about the campaigns and all that, we need to start hearing from our candidates what their plans are in moving us from a consuming country to a producing country. You cannot survive a committee of nations if your trade balance with any country at all has such a wide gap as this report by the NBS has shown.
Basically a one-way street.
Exactly, it's basically one-way street. We depend on them for everything, and we need to start moving away from that. What do we need to do? How do we do them? What timelines are we going to set for these things? When is it that we're going to have a fully indigenous company who can say, look, we want to build a rail line. This is what we'll do. When will Ajaokuta, when will it go live? After 46 years now? When will it go live? When we start producing, when we start producing our own steel? when we start producing our own glass. And so as long as we don't do this with every country that we do trade with, this is the kind of trend that we'll see. And we need to start speaking this to the people in positions of authority, that this is what we, and the politicians and the candidates at every level, local government, state, federal, that the debate that we want to hear is um, intelligent and well coordinated debates about solving these problems, not the verbose. I will give you house, I will build road, I'll give you water that we've had for 62 years.
Okay, let's take a look at your messages now. Fabian from Eka says, "Oh, I hope the same as." I'm guessing you. Do you mean the vote from yesterday? Well, though I hope the same. If the speech by Senator Tinubu is anything to go by, that hope is in vain. Okay, that I think you're talking about Mr. C. A paradigm shift can still be made if we all get our PVCs and vote wisely. Akin Yele says, guys, new trade deals, China is it. Whilst Ifeanyi from Iba says, congratulations to all the party candidates that have made it this far. I think the election is not going to be a two-horse race, but it's going to be a three-horse race. They must tell us practical ways they intend to transform the fortunes of Nigeria so we can become a prosperous nation. Okay, so let's see what's another horse looks like. From the Vanguard newspaper 2023, Peter Obi's presidency threatened as LP Faction picks Ezeofor as presidential candidate. Now, the acting national chairman of the Labour Party, Callistus Uju Okafor, yesterday announced Ambassador Jude Ezeofor as the presidential candidate for the party ahead of the 2023 presidential election. Now, he said that he's not fighting the former governor of Anambra State, that that's not what it's about. In fact, I quote, I'm fighting for what is my right, I'm not fighting my brother. Those who think I'm being used should have a rethink. So this kind of puts an upset in a lot of people's expectations for who the candidate for the Labour Party might be.
Yes, sure. So this is it's an unnecessary development that, if it's not sorted out quickly, could prematurely terminate the ambition of Mr. Peter Obi to run for the office of president next year. Now, what exactly is going on in the LP faction? Our listeners will ask. Now, apparently, there are two factions. Now, the late
Three, actually.
oh wow, okay, so the late chairman was sacked or died. I don't know in what order that happened. And one faction is headed by the national secretary. This second faction is headed by an acting national chairman. Now, Mr. Ojo Callistus Ojo Okafor is saying that by the constitution of the Labour Party, where the chairman of the party is no longer available to carry out the functions of that office, it should devolve first to the deputy national chairman, any of them, and not fall straight to the office of national secretary. Now, whether that is in fact the true representation of the fact remains to be determined. But what will happen is Mr. Peter Obi, or whichever faction wants to be recognized, has to go to court and get court to make a pronouncement as to which of the factions is the lawful faction. Then that court judgment has to be given to INEC so that INEC will recognize the proper faction. Because if the faction that produces the candidate is not recognized by INEC, INEC will not take any of the candidates purportedly present. Now, as it stands now, I don't know which of the factions INEC recognizes or acknowledges. I don't know whether it's his faction or Mr. Peter Obi's faction. But what is clear is the Labour Party cannot have two presidential candidates.
Now, considering the cracks that we're seeing in this party, when people the we know that actually, let's not say we know, what I have seen is that in the general conversation that people have been holding up Labour Party as that third horse. But what would you say, how viable can that third horse be with what we're seeing taking place right now?
So it could be, it, yes, they're correct in labeling Labour as a third force. And a case in point is Anambra. Governor Soludo's party, even though traditionally has been a ruling party in the state, it had so many problems it was going through, and Governor Soludo and the party had to go to court several times to secure his mandate. It's not any different from what is going on here because we must remember the political elite cut across both parties, the major parties, the APC and the PDP. That's why, to some extent, some of us can know what the difference is. Because people are in the PDP and the APC, people are in the APC and the PDP. So it's really like siblings, two different siblings from the same family. Now, Mr. Peter Obi needs to sort this out very quickly if he wants to be the third force, if he wants to remain the third force. Because,
Well,
like
we
I
have to remember Mr. Peter Obi is not the Labour Party.
yes, but he needs to sort out the platform on which he's running.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying he needs to sort all of this out. If he still wants to run with the Labour Party, fine. If he wants another platform, he needs to get that sorted quickly so that the Nigerians he wants to reach out to directly know where he is. Because I think some Nigerians are tired of the two major parties and the nonsense they have fed us since 1999, and they're looking for a fresh breath, fresh hope in the form of a third party.
How many days to the deadline by INEC to submit names of candidates?
I think they
Next week,
extended,
6 weeks. They extended 6 days. The
so
6 days
it's next
started
week.
counting on Monday, I think.
So next
June
week.
6th. Okay, up on Twitter, Samuel Kunku says, good morning all. If the APC or the PDP are not the ones sponsoring this Labour Party faction crisis, then what is going on with that man? Especially being an Igbo man and trying to destroy the hopes of many Nigerians for a better tomorrow. Okay, then I'll be taking more of your messages up on YouTube and up on WhatsApp as well. If you keep wants more tweets, go ahead and tweet at us. We are at Smooth981 FM, but I'll be taking your messages right after this.
Of course, that the crisis is being sponsored. The crisis is being sponsored by the major parties because when you think about it, Atiku, Tinubu, Peter Obi of the three is the most decent.
But one thing I have noticed when it comes to politics of parties is it's even I know people like to compare ourselves to America. Even in America, you see what the populace wants, you even see what the majority of the people want, but then it still doesn't get done. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's about. I'm not
It's
sure
politics
when it comes
first
to
before anything
when it
else.
comes to elections and politics. I am not sure it's about common sense or doing what is best for you.
It's not. It's a winner takes all something.
All right, and we're back in. And your messages, they are coming. They are coming up on YouTube. They are coming up on WhatsApp. I'm going to start with all the messages on WhatsApp first. 0809 440 Otunuga says, did Peter Obi not know that there were two factions in the Labour Party before he jumped in? Is that how he wants to govern Nigeria from an I don't know perspective? Whilst Edmund from Satellite says, oh, we need a national debate for all party presidential candidates. And BDB from Lucky says, the more I think of the quality of the delegates and the way they vote, the more I'm convinced that Nigerians deserve the leaders they get. The Labour Party crisis is a disaster. And this message is from James Obona from Oshodi, who says, well, Senator Bola Tinubu won not necessarily because he was loved, but because he worked more. He goes on to say, as the highest bidder. If he eventually wins, he would grow from just installing governors to installing presidents after his tenure. Well, all of that coming from your opinion. And Ngozi says, so sad to hear about the Labour Party. Lack of unity is always the division of this country. Tony from Ikeja says the presidential candidates have come into the ring with their capabilities. We don't need binoculars to see them as they are, and we have a viable option in 2023. Whilst Danny K says, Mr. C, it's the hope that kills. If you listened to the to Tinubu yesterday, well, come back in 8 years. More messages coming in. Abayomi Akarakiri says, wait. Uh, Bola Ahmed Tinubu became a party flag bearer while still doing consultations. No declaration, no TV appearances, just one outburst in Yoruba. And he also says debates and implementation are two different things. Oh, let me see who else I can take. Lolu says rebuild. Rebuild what? Oh, okay. He's going on to our very first story. Rebuild what? Are they not the ones that destroyed it? We keep going around in circles, doing the same and expecting different positive results. It's the same old rhetoric. Even the Bible says old men dream dreams and young men have visions. Nigerians should put on their thinking caps and vote someone in with visions and not mere political statements. Oh, you all have so much to say, and I love it. Keep on sending your messages in. As we take the next stories, I'd love to get your comments on that as well. Now, let's move on to some news from this day newspaper. We've heard from the National Bureau of Statistics, which says despite unstable power, discos raked in 2.4 trillion naira in 2 years as revenue between 2015 and, in 6 years rather, as revenue between 2015 and 2020. Now, according to the NBS, the revenue generated by the discos in 2015 stood at 278.89 billion naira, rose to 303.03 billion in 2016, and then just kept rising. So, Lakunle, I'm getting your thoughts on this.
Well, first, first off, don't let us forget that um, the disc started operation in 2014, I think, thereabout, and they were supposed sadly to have started on a clean slate because the federal government assumed all the liabilities as at their takeoff dates, and also went ahead and gave them some intervention funds, and they were supposed to have invested that into expanding their capability and infrastructure to be able to provide power. Now, these monies that we have seen here, in my opinion, I don't think it actually has anything to do with the power that they supply. Prepaid meters is all what we all give. Some of these monies are already, as it were, in quotes, on end by the discos. So, for example, I can't remember the last time I bought credit for my um, prepaid meter, because the one I bought 3 months ago or thereabout is still there due to the poor power situation that I experienced. So if they're going to record, except that they say that these funds that the NBC is recording here is the actually consumed amount, because this amount in 5 years translates to about a third of Nigeria's budget for 2016. About a third. Nigeria's budget for 2016 was about 6.67 trillion, I think, something like that. It translates to about 1/4 of last year's own. Last year is eight. Oh no, this year or last year. Last year was 8.4 or something. I can't remember the exact figure. So you can see that Nigerians actually, if you break that into, you compare this amount to the volume, to the capacity, install capacity of the Gencos, what is transmitted, and what is distributed. You see that Nigerians probably are paying over and above what is available for them to consume in terms of power. It's just the inefficiencies in between generation, the generation, transmission, and distribution that makes it looks like that is giving us the reality where we are, that all of us say that we have poor power supply. Okay, so for example, we have an installed capacity to generate 8 megawatts, right? The distribution can only take at a time a maximum of 4 megawatts. That means even if you generate 8, 50% of it is lost because we can't transmit it. And then the ones that get to the consumers. So numbers in this is not enough an index to say that we are actually enjoying power. But it just says that we're paying over and above, possibly, for what we have consumed. and I would like to see the further details um, of these stats by the MBS to see um, whether this is for the consumed or the exact amount that has been paid that is sitting with the discourse.
And Tayo says, so we paid for darkness and we're expected to pay more. Seems clear enough to me. Let's take a look at this article in from Premium Times now. Weeks after peace meeting, bandits attack Zamfara community, kill 5 residents. Mrs. C, can you take us through this?
Okay, very quickly, this is another recurring incident of the joke Nigeria has become today. Now,
Mrs. C, you say that, but then I also have to take issue with that phrasing because, first of all, I'm not laughing. Not a lot of people I know are laughing.
it's a tragic joke, actually, and it's very depressing, very annoying, very frustrating. So, what am I on about now? So, there's a village in Safair local government in Zamfara state called Magazu. They've been having a running battle with armed terrorists. I refuse to call them bandits. And it's gotten to the point where the poor, traumatized, and frightened people of Magazu village have to enter into peace meetings with terrorists. Now, that clearly speaks to the complete failure of the state actors in that local government and in that state. You are being tormented by terrorists. The state sanctioned agencies are nowhere to be seen, they're nowhere to be heard. And then the terrorists are now dictating how you will get peace. And you say there's a country. You say we're heading to elections. Elections to do what precisely?
Now, Mrs. C, I'd just like to throw in this story as well that comes in from the Guardian newspaper. Terrorists in helicopter killed 32 shell houses and church in southern Kaduna because now they were aided by a helicopter and took place over 6 hours.
Shokwe, that attack in Kaduna started about noon, midday, and lasted about 6 hours. For that period of time, where were the state security agencies? Where was the Air Force? There's an Air Force base in Kaduna. There are military operations in Kaduna. There are military formations in Kaduna. Where exactly was they for the duration of that period? 32 innocent lives were lost, and our thoughts go out to them. But for how much longer will we have to put up with a gross indifference, a gross negligence of our security agencies and our political leaders? For as long as no head rolls, nobody's made to account for this sort of bad behavior, sadly, we will continue to read stories like this.
Well, Mr. T, I suppose this is the season for us to be asking the questions because this is the point where you get to show what you're thinking on what you want by voting. So make sure you do that. And we've come to the end of Freshly Pressed, but the conversation continues with my analysts. So make sure you find them. They are up on social media. They're up on Twitter as well as Instagram. I know that from Mr. C. He's at Monsieur C, and that's got a triple E in it. If you somehow say that you can't find him, then you can just find us. We're at Smooth 981 FM, and you'll be able to see him because we tweet about him all the time. And you can also find Lakunle. He is up at Lakunle70. Are you on Instagram at that? That's that.
Yes.
Okay, Lakunle70 on Instagram and Twitter. Okay, so there you have it. Coming up, we have got the grapevine for you, and that is going to be at 8:15. Do you stick around? Love music, love life, love smooth, 98.1. And that is that, people.